Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Tevaron here, and welcome to a first look at BattleSouls, which is a MOBA that is going to be released for free on Steam on May the 12th. It does some fairly unique things, so we'll get into that a little bit later. First, we want to just look at some of the options that we have. It is a free-to-play game, as far as I know, from all the information that I've been given, and as such, it does have a shop. The only things that are in here right now are portraits, though they do have various categories for things over here, like XP boost and whatnot. I don't know what their monetization is going to exactly look like. Hopefully it's fair and not pay to win, because that would be unfortunate. I have had fun playing this game thus far. I know a lot of people have issues with the term MOBA being used to describe these type of games. And when I say these type of games, I mean League of Legends, Dota, Smite, those sort of games. I don't have too much of a problem with it. MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena, which I understand could refer to loads of games, Quake Live for instance. I prefer in my mind to think of it as Multiplayer Online Bastion Assault, which more accurately describes what's going on. For a technical alpha, as you can see here in the upper right, the game actually has quite a lot of options going. Under graphics, we have resolution. All these go up to ultra. I've kind of lowered them a little bit to try to get a rock solid sort of frame rate at 60 FPS. It dips down a little bit into the 59, 58 range at times. But we've got terrain detail, object detail, grass, particles, ambient occlusion, anti-aliasing. We have SSAA, FXAA, and FX. If I could speak, I could make some good videos, I imagine. FXAA2, shadows, and texture quality. We also have full screen, depth of field, and bloom, and VSync, which I always turn off. In audio, yes, we want to save, sorry. I didn't actually change anything, but we got master volume, effects volume, and music volume. I do wish they had a separate slider here for the announcer volume, because compared to these, the announcer is quite loud in-game. I imagine that that's something that they could fix before the 12th. I don't know if it's actually releasing at retail on the 12th or just going into early access on Steam. I'm not privy to those details. Controls are fairly standard. We've got the mouse sensitivity there. Then we've got WASD to move. Jump is spacebar. Primary attack is left click. Secondary attack is right click. And we don't use the QWER or 1, 2, 3, 4 for abilities. We use class chains. All of our abilities are mouse clicks, left and right. But we get to choose from 3 separate classes, and we can switch between them almost at will in-game, and I'll go into more detail and explain that when we get to that point. We can change our loadout after we die. We can change actually the heroes that we've got picked, or if we want to change before we die, it will treat it like a death and respawn us. And you can look at the scoreboard by pressing tab. Let's go ahead and look at the server browser. You can also choose quick play. This is an alpha. There are not many players online. They do list our ping over here. Right now, it's easier to simply go ahead and press quick play, which is what we'll do. And when you get to this screen, you can choose red team or blue team if you have a color preference. And I usually just click random team because I don't really care. This is a more casual MOBA. I hesitate to use that word because it has such a negative connotation to some people, but the game is designed to be jumped into, jump out of with no repercussions. When somebody leaves the game, a bot replaces them, and with as few players are on here during the alpha, most of the players are bots. I have played a few games where there have been other human players, and those are fun. I imagine there'll be a lot more as more people are added to the alpha, and then after the 12th, it probably should be very full, I would imagine. But it's designed to last about 10 to 15 minutes. I've had games that go a lot longer than that early on because I didn't quite understand what we were needing to do to advance the game. But anyway, let's look at these heroes. We've got Barus, or Barius, I'm not sure how his name is pronounced. His primary ability on the left click is a fireball that does damage on hit and also an AoE around the impact. Change, that is when you change to him from another class, he blasts out a frost AoE on the ground that slows and damages enemies. His secondary ability on right click is to stun an enemy for 1.5 seconds, and that's an ice effect. We also have Darmian, whose primary ability is an attack that can hit multiple enemies in front of him. His change is to become invulnerable for 2 seconds. His secondary ability is to charge forward in a dash and hit enemies with his shield. They'll be slowed and damaged. I use it primarily to get around faster. We also have Cornelia, whose primary ability is to send out a wave of magic, and if it hits an ally, that will heal them. If it hits an enemy, it will do damage. Her change is to heal herself and all allies around her, and her secondary is to throw a big bottle that explodes on impact, damages and knocks back enemies. Rosita is a pirate with a peg leg. Her primary ability is to shoot 3 cannonballs in quick succession that do damage on hit and in small radius. Her change ability is to splash grog in an AoE around her, giving herself and any allies hit a damage reduction buff. Her secondary is to lob a big flaming cannonball in a steep arc that explodes on impact and leaves a flaming AoE on the ground. Last but not least, Faraz, whose primary ability is a melee attack that deals damage and drains life energy from the target, restoring his hit points and giving him a run speed buff. His change lets him sense other players through walls and can also use his haunt ability through walls while this is effective. His secondary ability is, I'm assuming, haunt. It never actually says in the interface here, it just says secondary. Targets a single enemy or ally and teleport to their location after a 1-second delay. My preferred loadout is Darmian for the invulnerability and for the movement speed. I don't generally do any attacks with him at all. Cornelia to heal my allies and stun the enemy, as well as healing myself. If you have her as one of your characters, you can switch back and forth between your characters and heal yourself up if you're in a position to do so. And Rosita, who is my primary damage dealer. She doesn't deal as much damage with her cannonballs as, say, Barius does with his fireballs, but they're a bit easier to aim, and they do a bigger AoE, so if your enemies are bunched together, it hits them all at once. But without further ado, let's see some gameplay, shall we? Oh, well, straighten out your mouse there, sir. I will be doing post-commentary on this gameplay, as I am generally awful at these sort of games, and I don't need the distraction of trying to talk at the same time.
Captured the inhibitor.
You see what I mean about the announcer being a little bit loud? Anyway, what we're doing here is getting a buff. The sword gives you an attack buff. There's also an hourglass, which speeds your movement up just a little bit. And there is a winged shoe. The hourglass lowers your cooldowns just a little bit. There's a winged shoe, reminiscent of Mercury, that speeds you up a little bit. And then armor, which gives you defense. We're switching here between our healer and our DPS. Here we come to the first engagement of the game. What we have to do is clear the enemy team out and then stand beside this crystal. You see the colored energy beams shooting out to people there. And you have to fill up the bar at the top with your color.
Your team captured the inhibitor.
And you capture the inhibitor, and here's the scoreboard. You access that with tab. And once you capture the inhibitor, then you can go across and attack your enemy's crystal. And you have to destroy 3 of those crystals to win the game. It's kind of a delicate balance between getting control of the inhibitor and then going and attacking the crystal, because while you're attacking the crystal, they can either defend and try to attack you, or go and switch the inhibitor into their control. And once the inhibitor passes the midway point and starts going to their color, you can't damage their crystal anymore. It's immune. Well, let's go up through here, dashing as it lets us. You can see the cooldowns down there on the bottom bar. You switch between heroes with the number keys, 1, 2, and 3, as they have so kindly illustrated there. And if you'll notice, each one of them has a different amount of hit points. The pirate lady, who we are piloting right now, has 1,000 HP max. The healer has 900, and I believe our tankish guy has 1,600, though I generally don't get involved in battle with him. And all 4 of them are on us here, as well as my expert piloting getting me stuck on these steps multiple times. Well, let's switch to the healer. She heals herself a little bit when you switch to it. Then we'll switch to our knight. We get 2 seconds of immunity and charge out of there. I might get away with this if I'm not silly and go back. No, let's boogie on out of here. You can see in the map in the lower right down there, it shows you where your teammates are, and also you can see buffs pop up. This is not the only map available either. I have played several games, and it seems to be that there are 3 maps. I think this one is called Sky Tower. Don't quote me on that, and I believe it's the latest one that they've added. It's actually a really good map, because in the other 2, there are times when it's really hard for either team to damage the other's crystal because of the layout, and games on those maps can tend to drag on just a little bit longer than the ones do on this map with its configuration. So let's switch to our healer and heal our teammates up here. Try to make a run for this crystal. We'll back out, continue to heal, as well as throw some stun grenades. There we go, enemy down. And also in the interface here, we can see in the upper left and upper right the colored crystals that represents our and our teammates, or our enemies' crystal health. And here we are. We have just destroyed a crystal. And we can't keep attacking. One doesn't spawn automatically. It resets control of the inhibitor, and we have to get control of it again before another crystal will appear that we can attack. Well, we'll try to take these guys out as best we can and not get wiped, though that is a part of this game. There is no leveling in game. You don't get more powerful as the game goes on. There's no abilities to choose. There's no items to buy. It is very simple in that matter, and yet complex in that being able to get fluid enough to change between classes for what you need at that time is very important. It certainly has some rough edges that still need to be polished out. And I know they put up a post, or in reply to a post somewhere, saying that they were also going to be doing balancing adjustments on characters in the near future. So they are not finished with the game, it seems. Here we are going to go ahead and do damage to this crystal. You have this one and then the next one before we can win the game, or if they can destroy 3 of ours, we will lose. Try to take on 2 of these guys at once and fail. Well, not entirely unexpected. Switch over to our knight to dash. That's the one that I need to get used to doing the most. I generally am quick enough switching to my DPS, but I find it hard to react fast enough to switch to my, well, dead again, switch to my knight character to get the 2 seconds of immunity that can really save your butt, along with the dash to get you out of danger. just something that hopefully will come with time. We're going to go bypass these people since they're fighting up there. Our bots should go ahead and take control of the crystal soon. And we're going to cheese the AI a little bit. It's a little bit different with players who have human brains and not computer brains. But we can, in fact, cheese these AIs. If we can go behind an object or break line of sight with them, they will forget that we are there and go on. But we're going to go back and recapture this and heal up our teammates in the meantime. Top them all off, switch back to DPS, and see if we can take out yet another crystal of the... Oh! Well, we're dead. At least we took a couple of them with us, so that's not a total loss. And there's a speed buff up. We will grab that. The bots never seem to do that. I have had, in the games that I've had human players in there with me, these buffs were contested, so that's something that I would be looking out for were I you, and there were human players in your match.
The enemy team captured the inhibitor.
Easy to get ganked while capturing a buff there, since it does take some time. And one thing that took me a little bit to learn is, in these matches with bots, you have to damage the crystal. Especially on other maps besides this one, your AI people will take forever to destroy the crystals. And we're just going to wait here for them to get control of the inhibitor, and then we're going to go ham on this. As you can see, it's immune before we get it. And actually, after
your team captured the inhibitor,
the announcer says that, it still takes a few seconds for the crystal to be vulnerable. And here we are on the last crystal. I think the AI guys actually managed to kill the second crystal while I was jabbering on there, but that's fine. Looks like the red team is recapturing the inhibitor. So let's go up here and see if we can group up with our team bots and rally them to a victory. Peekaboo! Oh, nobody's in here. Good deal. One really good thing about the pirate lady is if your enemies are in here in a group trying to activate this crystal, and you come up here, you can absolutely wreck them. You drop your AoE in under them, then hit them with cannonballs, and they're dead really fast. And we're going to go and destroy... No, I guess I changed my mind. We're going to go back and recapture this inhibitor since the raid guys decided to defend it. As you can see there, we implemented Plan A, which I described a minute ago. That is AoE and cannonball to death, the group.
the inhibitor.
And now we have our cavalry with us. We will stay back here and heal these guys up. And yet they are stupid and separate and run out in front and die. What can you do? They're just AI. Sorry for the bad poetry. Well, looks like we are getting a bit of an advantage on these guys. We've lost 2 bot characters here. And I forget that those cannonballs you launch actually explode after a certain time, even if they're in the air. So you can't actually shoot them a huge distance. We're going to go ahead and ignore any damage from the enemies and take this crystal out. And as the lady said, we win. Well, looks like we didn't have too bad a kill-death ratio. 12,000 hero damage, 13,000 crystal damage, 9,000 healing. And the bots did no healing at all because they stay mages all of the time. Well, that will be it for this brief look at BattleSouls. I encourage you to check the game out when it comes out on May 12th. It is, after all, free to play, and I've enjoyed the few hours that I've put into it. Surprisingly so. It may be too simple for some and just not appeal to others, but I think that this game can definitely fit into a niche of people who want to play a MOBA type experience, but who don't have the dexterity to play League of Legends or Dota, aka people like me. Because believe me, I've tried, and I'm getting too old for that crap. But that's all I have to say on the subject. I do hope the gameplay footage gave you some idea if this game is going to be something that you would be interested in. And until next time, friends, be excellent to each other.